quick market update today, guys, because it is interesting. A very well-defined support has developed here at 61,800. If we switch to little lower time frames, you will see this even clearer. In the same way as we got this super well-defined resistance at 70,800, which held so many times, 15 times, we're now having this very well-defined support at 61,800. As you can see, every time price reaches this level, a buy order comes and price bounces back up. In the same way as I said in the beginning of this resistance development, that you can't know how much supply that person has who is offloading at resistance. We also don't know how much buying power the person or persons have that are buying at that well-defined support. But if this support level seems to be holding, I might be interested in some new entries actually, because Lars Online is gold on the daily. That means dips or buying opportunities. But I'm not gonna blindly buy and hope for the best. No, it's not my personality, it's not how I operate. I want to see this support holding, confirmed. And if it breaks, if it drops below here and doesn't immediately bounce back, I will instead move my buying targets down. The first obvious support is this channel here at around 59,000. That was my target during this dip, it never reached. If this support breaks, I would think it will reach this time. But what if that doesn't hold either? Larsson, is it possible that we could go even lower? Of course it's possible. Then we look downwards and then we see this big volume spike here at 51,800. Why is everything at 800? I don't know, but I could guess that 8 is the lucky number in Chinese and many Asian cultures. If we get there, that would represent a top to bottom dip of about 30%. I've made quite many videos where I reviewed the historical dips during uptrends intact. Watch them if you haven't seen them already. So that is definitely a possible outcome, has happened many times before. If that doesn't hold either, okay, well then the next support is down here at 44k, and double 4 is not a lucky number, so that would probably mean that we're no longer in an uptrend. If we switch back to daily, of course it matters a little bit how we get there, but I don't think Lars Online would be gold at 44,000. But it would most definitely be gold here and probably gold here also. Depends a little on how we get there, of course. The other thing I want to draw your attention to is the yields. Every time I bring it up, there are so many people saying why this shouldn't work, but well, for the past 1.5 years it has been the probably most useful tool, apart from the price as such, to get a clue of where Bitcoin is going. Here I'm plotting the inverse of the yield, so 1 divided by the 2-year yield, because then the price chart and the yield curve point in the same direction. I find it easier to see visually. And as you know, the yields have shot up the past couple of weeks, which means that the inverse of the yield goes down. And if we then overlay that with the Bitcoin price, the inverse of the yield goes down. What has happened with Bitcoin? It has also gone down. Price is a function of the behaviors of the buyers and sellers. And what are they doing? Well, we have never before seen transparency, at least in the ETF flows. As you remember, in the beginning the outflows were dominating, then we had a period of very large net inflows. The black line here is the net flows. And then you see something interesting. From about March 11th, there's been a massive drop in inflows. March 11 was the top. People buy when price goes up. When it starts going down, no one wants to buy, not even the institutions. And then you see this even clearer here from March 25, March 26, how the inflows have been sloping down. And March 25-26 was this area here when it was clear that the advance was stopping at a solid resistance level. Investors saw it and the appetite to invest dropped. And I know that there's a lot of headlines that the outflows are dominating now, and they are, but as you see that actually the net flow is very small. The conclusion is rather that the total flows, both the inflows and the outflows, have been dropping, which means that people are hesitating. What's next? And I think that is the right mindset and the right action to take here. Why try to speculate? Let's find out if this support holds or if it breaks. That will be a massive clue to this market. Why speculate? And we're so close to the halving date now. The different trackers get little bit different results. This one predicts 19th of April, 10 minutes to midnight UTC time. This one about 1 hour later. 522 blocks left. Looking at the main parabola that I drew quite some time back, this black line here. Now it looks like we might end up pretty close to that actually. Now, what if this parabola breaks? What if we wake up and it looks like this? As you recall, in this video I painted two main scenarios, which I think box in the two likely outcomes, based on the fundamental principle behind technical analysis that patterns tend to repeat because the people are still the same. I made one parabola-based scenario which landed at 70,000, which we have now reached, and one halving-based scenario based on the observation from previous halvings that the pump after the halving has been the same length and of greater magnitude than the pump before the halving. So if that repeats, that would bring us to roughly 300,000. While if we only study the behavior of the parabolas as such, they have been of diminishing magnitude comparing each parabola with the previous one. And if that becomes the case for the current fifth parabola, it has already played out its role. I personally don't think that will happen. Large line is gold, the main parabola is intact, we have an overall bullish chart construction. So my main assumption with large line gold is continuation, with dips being a buying opportunity. I want to remind also of this very significant event, that Bitcoin dominance actually hit the resistance and rejected. Will we finally get a proper alt season, as we have seen in previous cycles, which is where the single biggest opportunities in this market have presented themselves. When everything points up every day, most people feel they don't need the process, they don't need any tools, they don't need any methodology, they don't need to think about position sizing, they don't need to think about capital preservation or risk management. But it's at days like this where you will get slaughtered if you don't have a methodology, a principle to fall back on. Get your tools in order. If you want mine, it's ctolarsson.com, course and indicator, and here's Larsen Line Pro. If you don't like me, get somebody else's. Thank you, tack. CTO Larsson out. Hej då.